There are tight races everywhere, even South Carolina of all places. Lindsey Graham's in such trouble. Mike Pence had to fly his super spreading ass down to Greenville and lend his electric charisma to the fight. Here to talk about this extraordinary state of affairs, the South Carolina Democratic candidate for U.S. Senate, Jaime Harrison. Welcome, Jaime. So nice to have you on.
Oh, it's so good to be on. Thank you for having me, Larry.
Of course, and we appreciate it. I know how busy it is right now. You're right in the thick of it. You know, I know it's a tough fight. Now, you made the statement on November 3rd, the people of South Carolina are going to close the book on the Old South, and a brand new book is going to open called The New South. Is there, in fact, a New South emerging from your point of view, and how is it different from that Southern strategy, Old South?
I do believe there's a New South emerging. We saw it here in South Carolina. We were able to pick up a congressional seat that has been controlled by Republicans for over 3 decades. In essence, we are seeing the demographics in the South, in South Carolina specifically, start to modify and change.
Do you feel like it's changing from red to blue, or is it becoming just purplish? Is it becoming more like the way North Carolina is, where sometimes it votes for a Democrat or Republican? What is the biggest change in your view?
You know, we are not where North Carolina and Georgia are, but we're not that far away either. It's just it's a process. People want more pragmatic politics, where focus is on the issues that people are dealing with rather than just Democrats and Republicans. You know, we've had a number of our rural hospitals closed. In the end of the day, those folks that live in that community aren't looking for a Democratic way to keep their hospital open or a Republican way. They just want the hospital to stay open.
Do you feel South Carolina's been left behind? Do you have a sense that the people feel that and you want to help trying to bring it up? Or do you feel like you want to make a change in Washington on a national level? What is your focus here?
Well, my focus is on South Carolina. The problem that we have is our senator is too focused on the national, too focused on Washington, D.C. This is a guy who hasn't done an in-person town hall in well over 3 years. But you can find him every other night on Sean Hannity. You know, I think the real issue in South Carolina is that our leadership are relics of that Old South. People who don't have any vision, who believe that our better days are behind us instead of ahead of us.
Sure.
We need some folks who have a foot in the 21st and are looking towards the 22nd. You know, Lindsey Graham still uses a flip phone. I mean, it's about somebody who really is and understands the difficulties and the hardships that the next generations that are coming up are facing right now. And I don't think Lindsey has a good grasp of that.
Yeah, South Carolina strikes me as I'll call it a racial vote state. And what I mean by that is the way the black vote came out and pretty much saved Biden from the brink, you know, kind of helped propel him to victory. But ironically, you're going to need a big portion of that white vote, you know, to really win. How do you convince enough white voters that you're the black friend they've been waiting for?
Well, listen, you know, for me, I'm looking to represent all of South Carolina.
Right.
And I've said that from day one. You know, this is not about Democrats versus Republicans or progressives versus conservatives. It's about doing what's right versus what's wrong.
And you've talked about in some of your interviews, you know, everyone's facing a tough economy, especially with COVID right now. One thing I want to ask you is you've made a distinction between some of the racial disparities that people are facing in terms of the economy and rural disparities. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
When I first got into this race, you know, I was asking myself, why is South Carolina on the top of every bad list and at the bottom of every good list, right? I mean, it's a wonderful state, beautiful people, and you wonder, why is that the situation? And we started looking at some of the things that are dragging the state down in the areas of education, economic opportunity, healthcare, and infrastructure. And we saw that these things were all rooted in rural South Carolina, in these rural communities that historically have been left out.
Sure.
I believe if we invest in those communities, if we tackle these disparities and the holes that we see in those rural communities, we will see South Carolina rise up to the top of the good list.
And if that's the case, and you say this has been going on for a long time, I'm assuming it's not like this just happened to South Carolina. And if many of these people seem to be voting the ticket the same way, why do you think that is? Is there a portion of that, I'll call it the Republican constituency, I feel like that's what you mean by the rural vote here. What is it that is causing them to do that? Is it a cultural thing that's happening there? That people are kind of stuck in, you know what I mean, where they identify with that and it's hard to break away to something new?
Well, actually, here in South Carolina, rural does not equate to white. And, many times people hear that and they think it's automatically you're talking about a white population. But there are more rural black counties in South Carolina than rural white counties. You've got a lot of people who live in these communities, black and white, Democrat and Republican, are just tired of the broken promises. And so what happens is they just throw their hands up and say, a pox on both of your houses, I'm not going to go vote. I'm not going to be a part of it because my life does not change. It does not get better regardless of who is in the governorship, the White House, or U.S. Senate. And I wanted to show through this campaign that, no, you know what? There is a difference.
Do you have a sense that this could be historical in a couple of ways? I mean, your other Senator, Tim Scott, two brothers running the state here, red and blue. I mean, that could be something very interesting. Does that provide an opportunity for a different type of working across the aisle? Because a lot of the things you're talking about is kind of dependent on people being able to work across the aisle.
Yeah, I believe I can. I have a good relationship with Tim Scott. I think we can use that as a foundation to have a relationship to try to do our very best for South Carolina. Even when we had a Democrat and Republican in the past, Strom Thurmond and Fritz Hollins, they were able to come together because their one love was South Carolina.
Well, Strom Thurmond had another love, but that was a secret one.
Oh,
well, promise me this one thing. If you become senator, could you pose like with Tim Scott like this, and it's South Carolina black in business? How about that?
Oh, God.
I think that's a yes. I'm going to take that yes. Well, thank you so much, Jamie. We're wishing you the best in your election out there.
Thank
Jaime
you.
Harrison, everybody.